Hey, everybody. Another great interview today on Locked On Badgers. So excited to get into recruiting analytics with Mr. Cory Yates, who has been gracious enough to join us. We're going to get into where recruiting analytics are going. What that does that mean for the sport of football? And then we're going to dive specifically into some of our Badger prospects, Leo Chenel, Jake Sanborn, and maybe where do they match up in the recruiting analytical world? And are they a little undervalued as draft prospects? All that and more in today's Locked On Badgers.
You are Locked On Badgers, your daily podcast on the Wisconsin Badgers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to Locked On Badgers, your daily source for everything happening with the Wisconsin Badgers sports landscape. Thank you, as always, for making Locked On Badgers your first listen every day. And today's show is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline, where the game starts. And as promised, we are going to bring in Mr. Cory Yates. Welcome, Mr. Cory Yates, to the show. So excited to have you. Cory Yates is with Recruiting Analytics, the CEO and co-founder. I really just want to kind of ask you, in the strategic sense, the 30,000-foot view, what is Recruiting Analytics? What is your company about? Where are you headed?
Hey, thanks a lot. First of all, thanks for having me, Ryan, and happy Wednesday to you and everyone listening. So Recruiting Analytics, we're a sports technology and data company. And simply put, what we do is we analyze video to measure the athleticism of football players. And that can be high school football players, it can be collegiate football players, even players at the NFL level.
So, and a ton of people that listen to college football shows, this one is no different. I mean, recruiting is the lifeblood of sports. I mean, that's where it's at the college level. And I, for a long time, have thought football has been behind the power curve from baseball and basketball from an analytics standpoint. I feel like those other sports got to jump on this. Why is football? Or, well, A, tell me if I'm wrong on that, and then B, why has football seemingly been behind on this analytics curve?
So I don't think it's unintentional, right? I think, football in general gets a bad rap for being behind the curve as it relates to integrating analytics into what they do each and every day, particularly on the player personnel side. And so that's somewhat of a myth. And here's why. When you think about the evaluation and the player personnel folks at the highest level in the NFL, they're using data. They're using historical data from the NFL Combine. They're using those numbers, those test results to compare with players in the past, and they're making an informed, as you know, I should say, educated guess, right? Because at the end of the day, the NFL draft is a 50-50 proposition, but these personnel executives have tribal knowledge that is very valuable. And like I said, the draft process is a 50-50 proposition. So they are using intelligence as it relates to you evaluating players. They're leveraging combine data. What we bring to the table are new insights. So we're bringing new insights. So we're not necessarily saying, hey, you know what, throw everything that you've done out historically and adopt our player tracking data on players. We're simply supplementing the tribal knowledge that is very valuable in the space with this new athletic data that we're able to generate with our technology. And the athletic data that we're able to generate is, as I mentioned earlier, leveraging game film. So we're able to extract new athleticism data from game film so that these evaluators can make informed decisions about a player's athletic ability and their projection.
And guys, you can see, if you're watching on YouTube, you can see Cory's Twitter account. One of the reasons we're really excited to have him on is we love the sport of football, and we need smarter people on the show talking about it, getting the information out there. And Cory's one of those people. So please, if you have a chance, if you're interested in learning more, follow him on Twitter. When you say tracking data, tracking players, tracking metrics, you're going down to the high school level now. Is that where the biggest maybe jump in the analytics is going to happen in the football space? Is that finding those prospects at the high school level that maybe are overlooked?
Yeah, the high school level is definitely the gateway. And what I mean by that is we have studies that show that if you can identify talent early enough in the pipeline, the high school high school football players, they are the early indicator for future collegiate stars and potentially NFL players. And we have data. We looked at over 700 NFL players, and we studied those players in terms of the attributes and the traits that made them special. And it all began in high school. Think about it. What high school star or what NFL player that you look back on that was not a high school star, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so we do have technology that we're tracking these players. We're able to glean how fast these players are running in game. We're able to measure their change of direction, their acceleration, and then we even have position specific metrics that we utilize. And then we take all of that data, that athletic data, to produce a score. And then depending on where that athlete falls on a 100-point scale determines how we project that athlete to the next level in terms of college football. So that's the high school. That's the high school space. There's over 1 million high school football players out there. And as you can imagine, Ryan, there are players that get overlooked, not because they don't have the ability, but perhaps they're in a smaller region. Perhaps they're in a state that's not typically highly recruited. And so what we're able to do is we're able to highlight those athletes to the college football programs that we work with and provide them with objective athleticism data so that they can make decisions and hopefully continue to build and improve upon their roster in terms of getting more athletic. Because that's what these programs want to do.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but one of the things that you had mentioned on your account, your Twitter account, was that speed is just kind of a genetic thing, right? You can't go past the level of your genetic ability for speed. So you're really trying to identify some of the raw skills and the raw talents and get those. I shouldn't say raw, but you're trying to get the athletic kids into the hands of the colleges that need them, and you're providing a vehicle to do that.
Absolutely. So when you think about it, right, you can certainly maximize your athletic ability, speed being a component of your athletic ability. But listen, I'm 5'7", I'm a former college football player, but my gene pool only allowed me the capacity to play at the Division II level. Okay. No matter how much training I put in, there was a cap to my athletic ability. And so the reason why I bring that up is because, as I mentioned before, high school players, that is the entryway to your future NFL players, right? And so what we're able to do is we're able to identify those players that have a high ceiling, right? And if they exceed the median threshold of what we call our RA score, then they have a pretty favorable trajectory both in college and then also at the NFL level. And so, our clients get excited about that because we're not only providing them with new insights, we're contextualizing those insights and measuring those against NFL players who, when they were in high school, met a certain performance threshold, if that makes sense.
For 1 second there, I think I buffered, but I got just about all that. I did want to touch on one piece of what you said. You said our clients. I saw on Twitter that you signed on with a Pac-12 school. I don't know if you can tell us anything more about that, but the big gist of it, what I want to talk about is, does this, first of all, congratulations. That seems amazing.
Thank you.
And does this become a bit of a recruiting advantage / disadvantage to schools that don't have that analytic background, whether it's you or someone else in that field?
Yeah, so we do service. We're happy, and we can share that here. We did sign on University of Washington, so we're going to be helping the Huskies with their scouting and evaluation process. So we're super excited to work with those folks, and then bring, a service that's going to help them gain a competitive advantage when it comes to identifying talent and evaluating talent accurately. The other thing that we're able to help these programs do is identify talent much earlier in the recruiting cycle. And so I'll give you a good example. Nicholas Harbor, who, he blew up a couple of weeks ago because he's a national recruit, 5-star edge rusher, up in the Northeast. Well, this kid is 6'5", 200 plus pounds, and he ran a 10.3 in a track meet a couple of weeks ago. And now all of a sudden he's, Phil Yates,
Right. That's
tweeted
so
about it.
fast for a dude that size. Just for reference, people may not know. Like, that is so fast for a big dude.
Oh yeah, it's off the chart. And to put it in perspective, so DK Metcalf, I think, ran like a 10.4, maybe even a 10.6 when he ran in that track meet. But the point is that with our technology, we were able to identify Nicholas before he played a down of varsity football in August of 2019.
So you're 2 years ahead of the curve.
Yeah. And so we're able to leverage artificial intelligence. And I hesitate to use that because when you use the word AI in the football space, people kind of get wigged out. But yeah, we're able to help these programs identify talent early on in the recruiting cycle. And then again, we're also able to help them better project players because we've got a huge database of players from the past that have had success both at the collegiate and the NFL level.
Hey guys, much more of this coming up. We got to jump to our first break. Much more with this coming up, Cory Yates. We're going to talk in some of the Badgers prospects and how they maybe lay out on some of these metrics and some of the analytics. And I'm just fascinated by where this is going. So I want to continue picking his brain on this. But first, today's show is brought to you by Athletic Greens. Athletic Greens has been one of my go-tos on my fitness journey. Simple powder you put in your drink. It tastes good. And I needed it because I wanted some immune boost. I wanted to sleep a little better. Athletic Greens is a sustainable company. They do good work for the community. Since 2020, they've donated 1.2 million meals to kids in need. That's since 2020, 1.2 million meals to kids in need. And it costs less than $3 a day. That's less than your cold brew habit. This is something that comes with vitamin D, a multivitamin pack, everything you need. There's no GMOs. It's keto, paleo, vegan, dairy-free. So it's lifestyle friendly. Whatever lifestyle fitness journey you're on, Athletic Greens is here to support you. Quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source superfoods, probiotics, 75 high quality vitamins to start your day the right way. It's now time to reclaim your health. Arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition, especially heading into the flu and cold season. It's just one scoop of in your cup of water every day. That's it. There's no need for a million different supplements. Athletic Greens, head to athleticgreens.com/college. Again, that is athleticgreens.com/college. Take ownership over your health today, and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. Also, thanks for making Locked On Badgers your first listen every day. Starting April 28th, the draft is coming up. One of the reasons we wanted Cory on here is the draft is coming up. It's one of football fans. It's our favorite time of the year. Locked On has your live NFL draft coverage with 3 days of real-time analysis from an extensive lineup of experts and insiders. That is Locked On NFL Draft Live coming up April 28th. Now let's get back to more of Cory Yates, the man, the reason we're all here. I am I'm a recruiting nerd. I've been following recruiting for a decade plus. I love everything about this. And I want to, before we even get into the Badger section, I want to definitely give you an opportunity to share with all of our listeners your Twitter accounts up there. Is there anywhere else they can go to find what you're doing, what your company's doing? What's the best resource to kind of follow what is going on in your area?
Yeah, sure. Thanks a lot. So you can see my handle there, at Cory RA Analytics. And then our company handle is at RA Analytics. There you can find our technology live in action. We also showcase not only NFL draft prospects, but we also, if you're into fantasy football and if you have a Devy League, we feature high school prospects there as well. And then we'll showcase some of the exclusive metrics that we're able to track with our technology, like max speed, change of direction, acceleration, time to sack, etc.
Awesome, man. And guys, I can't recommend enough. Some of the lists they throw out there, by the way, a couple of them are pretty Leo Chenel friendly, which I want to get into next. It's a Wisconsin show. Leo Chenel, I love the guy, and I'm seeing him in second and third rounds. And to me, I definitely want to bring you in on this, but for me, he's a guy that I think is going to be able to create some havoc in the backfield. The idea that he can't play in a passing situation because he's maybe not the greatest cover guy, I think is a little unfair, because I think he can rush the passer and affect the game in that way. But what are your thoughts on Leo Chenel? What do the analytics say? Am I off base, or where should he go in this draft? I'm going to give it all to you, but yeah.
Yeah, no, that's a reasonable take, Ryan, in terms of what you think about Leo. I mean, First of all, he reminds me a lot of Luke Kuechly. And when I think about some of his best traits, Leo Chenel's best traits, I think about his instincts. I mean, he has rare instincts, and that's attributed to his high football IQ. He's got a great knack in terms of finding the ball and getting there. He's got strong hands, so he has the ability to really shock and shed blockers. You see that jump off the film, and then his closing speed, right? He's able to read, react, and he gets downhill quickly. Those are the three traits that I see that I think are going to carry forward to the NFL, and he's going to have, I think, a great year or a great career in the NFL. And why do I think that? It's backed by analytics, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so you teed me up very nicely. So when you look at the analytics for us, Leo Chenel is linebacker one. He had an overall score for us at a 94.7, and he's number 16 on our big board. And so how we grade players out, it's kind of made up of two things, right? Athleticism, and to specify, we're measuring in-game athleticism. And so that basically means that we're measuring how fast the player plays the game. We're measuring all of the things that you would typically measure in a combine setting in a live environment, in a live game, across multiple games and multiple plays, obviously. So our athleticism score is a reflection of how that athlete functions during a game. And some of the position-specific metrics that we look at for inside backers are things like how quickly they close the ball carrier. So I'll just give you some numbers here as it relates to Leo Chenel. I mean, his closing time to ball carrier, I mean, he gets there. He's in the 90th percentile. His max speed to ball carrier is over 7 miles per hour. And that may not mean much, but when you think about his height, weight, and speed, I mean, he's bringing a lot of punch to the party, if you will. And so he definitely announces his presence when he arrives at the ball carrier. He's getting to the ball carrier in under 2.5 seconds. Okay, that's in the top quartile of our database. And so his overall in-game athleticism score for us is a 91.1. And then the second component to our overall score, we take into account career production. And so obviously when you look at his numbers, I mean, the kid had 10 sacks, 63. He had 63 stops. His missed tackle rate is less than 11%. He's definitely does a good job of getting to the quarterback and rushing the quarterback, Ryan. So I think versatility is another reason why I like Chenel. And his overall production score for us was a 99.1. So again, in-game athleticism score, 91.1, plus his career production at 99.1. Makes his overall score at a 94.7 and LB1 on our big board.
Which is a really big jump from where you're seeing him in mock drafts. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to have you on is just look at the other side of this. And I want to unpack something you said because I find it really interesting. You're talking about in-game athleticism when it seems like everyone else, and I'm painting with a very broad brush here. I know it's not specifically everyone, but people focus on combine athleticism, right? And people used to talk about Jerry Rice running a 4.6, something along those lines at the combine, but nobody ever caught him on a football field.
Right.
Right. And I think that's a really important distinction here. Like, we don't really care as much about a guy who trains specifically for a 40-yard dash for 2 months, does it without shoulder pads and helmets, and runs a 4.38. But in game, you don't see that show up. And what you're saying is Leo Chenel's athleticism, it's showing up in game.
Absolutely. Right. And if you think about his combine numbers, they were good. Mm-hmm. Right. I mean, so they weren't anything to dismiss, but we're measuring. So in a combine setting, you look at the 40-yard dash. What we measure is we measure max speed. Okay. If you think about agility in a combine, you're using the 3-cone and the shuttle to measure an athlete's ability to change direction. The way we measure that is we have a metric called transition time, which is essentially how quickly does that athlete change direction. And so, again, those are just a couple of examples of the same metrics that are being used to measure athleticism in a combine setting. We're doing the same thing in a live environment in a game. And so that's just the evolution that I think the industry's going. Fortunately, I think we're on the front end of that, because if you think about the way the industry measures athleticism, it really hasn't changed over the years.
Mm-hmm.
The industry uses what I call the big three: the tape measure, the scale, and then, the king or queen is the stopwatch,
Mm-hmm.
right? If you think about those three things, there's not a lot of innovation in those three things, particularly the stopwatch. And that's the
Mm-hmm.
one that can either increase your stock or it can hurt your stock, is that stopwatch. And so what we're able to do is we're able to say, listen, the athlete has evolved over the years, right? But the tools to measure athleticism has not. And so we're bringing technology to the table, again, to help kind of contextualize athletic ability in the context of a game. And that allows us the ability to project these players at a higher level with more accuracy.
I think that's the way to do it, right? You want to see how they are playing and applying that athleticism in game. Talk to me really quick. I want to finish up on Leo Chenel. The knock or the question I've seen come up with Leo the most is that short area quickness, that ability to maybe go sideline to sideline, that ability to maybe, and he's never going to be a dude that you put on an explosive tight end, I think, in the NFL. But is that a valid quickness, the ability to go sideline to sideline, or has that been a little overblown with Leo?
Yeah, so look, for when we run the analytics on, we ran the analytics on him. A couple of areas that I think he will need to improve and work on at the next level is just the lateral speed and change direction. And so those are the two things that I think are questions around his game and his ability to play in space. We know the game has evolved and has played a lot more in space. But you hit it on the head earlier, Ryan. He's a very effective pass rusher, despite some of the limitations as it relates to his change of direction. I think he can improve in those areas. I think it's a matter of improving his flexibility. That's my personal opinion. That's not the analytics. But yeah, his transition time was in the bottom quartile. Just to kind of give you some perspective in terms of where his numbers ranked as it relates to his transition time that I talked about earlier. So it was in the bottom quartile. So those are areas of improvements, and those are some valid concerns. But it's all about taking that talent and maximizing what he does well. He does so many other things well that wouldn't keep me up at night, and that wasn't enough for us to lower his ranking on our board.
Got it. No, that's great. All right, guys, coming up on the next segment, we're going to dive quickly into Jake Sanborn, Jake Ferguson, continue this just awesome discussion. But first, we want to dive into another one of our favorite sponsors on the show, Bet Online. Bet Online is the place we go, not just for your sports betting needs, but all your sports news, podcasts, news, futures. And it's not just sports betting. College basketball's over, sadly, for all of us, but the NBA playoffs are gearing up. I'm on that Phoenix Suns money line to win the NBA title. Baseball's starting. The NFL is going to be coming down the pike. There's NFL futures up. You can get the Niners plus 700 to win the NFC. You can get the Bengals plus 1,100. Both of those are kind of sneaky good bets if you're betting on Trey Lance. I've talked about that a couple times. I think he's the real deal. Again, it's live betting casino games too. Blackjack, roulette, everything you want is on Bet Online. Head to the website today. Use your mobile device to learn more about the trends in action. Bet Online, where the game starts. All right, let's jump back into Cory. I want to finish this up, and I am going to run. I told him before the show, I'm going to run out of time before I run out of questions. So I may have to try to reach him back in 6 months if he hasn't blown up too big, which obviously I hope you do. But I want to really quickly touch on two more Badgers. And then I kind of want to add a follow-up question about where you think this is going in the high school recruiting sphere. Jake Ferguson, the tight end, been a reliable pass catcher, a little athletically limited. Is that an accurate take?
It is.
Is there anything in terms of, I guess the question is, he's kind of a finished product, right? Or is there?
Yeah, the thing with Ferguson, listen, he's a throwback tight end.
Hmm.
Okay, and he reminds me a lot of. I'm a big Cowboy fan, so don't hold that against
Novacek.
me. Well, no, he reminds me of a more recent tight end, Dalton
Oh, okay.
Schultz,
Yeah, yeah.
who when he had his opportunity, made the most of it. Dalton Schultz did. And so Ferguson, he's got strong hands. He can catch in traffic. You love that about his game. He can absorb a hit, hold on to the ball. I personally like the fact that he gains yards after contact. So, he gets yak in a different way.
Hmm.
Um, Again, kind of more of a throwback tight end, but he is somewhat limited in terms of his athletic ability. So, how much separation can he gain is a question and something that I'll be kind of watching as he gets to the next level. And I do think he has to improve in terms of his inline blocking. I think he's got to be a little bit more consistent there. But yeah, he's definitely can be an asset to a team at the next level.
Okay, and I really like the yak point, because I always thought he was underrated in the aspect he made a lot of people miss initially. He's a little sneakier in the open field than I think people give him credit for.
Yeah, I mean he's not the again what the modern day tight end is. I would say he's not that athletically, right? But again, when you talk about the yak, yeah, he's sneaky. He's sneaky athletic is how I would describe it. And then again, similar to the way I look at running backs, if you're going to be that type of tight end, then I'm looking at okay, how do you fall for it? Are you gaining yards after contact? And he does that extremely well.
Agreed. Yeah. What about Jack Sanborn, Leo Chenel's running mate? Does
Yeah.
he have
So
enough juice to be a starter?
might be a little bit of a stretch.
Okay.
I think he is definitely a top five linebacker. That's what our numbers say. In fact, we have him as LB2 um, with an overall score of an 89.1. Not as athletic as his running mate. His in-game athleticism score was an 80.2, but highly productive. His production score came in at 98.5 for us. But similar traits to Leo Chenel. I mean, high football IQ, has the ability to does a good job of reading, reacting, and diagnosing plays relatively quickly, and does a good job of constricting the run lanes when he does identify the play. But athletically, he's not at the same level as Leo Chenel.
Right. Okay. The last thing I kind of want to finish up with, and I've already had you for almost 30 minutes. Again, I told you I'm going to run out of time before I run out of
That's all right,
questions,
man. That's all right.
but I really appreciate it. I want to dive a little bit more into recruiting, the high school level, the advantages and disadvantages of using this, and not just your team specifically. I think there's probably other people that are going to jump into this. It seems like you're kind of, like you said, at the front of that. But as schools continue this recruiting arms race, right? We've seen it. Teams now have whole recruiting departments. They have massive facilities. They put tons of money into this. Are teams going to be able to compete, in your opinion, at a high level without having some type of high school analytics, finding those guys that are overlooked? And I think your point was really, really intelligent, getting on those guys early, right? Because we've seen that schools that get on kids early, that's a huge advantage in recruiting.
Yeah, it's getting in early and accurately projecting the kid's upside. Like those are the two things. And so you're going to be at a competitive disadvantage if you're not integrating player tracking data. There aren't a lot of players out there, but obviously we're one of the big players out there. But I'm telling you right now that integrating player tracking data into your evaluation process is a must-have in order to future-proof your recruiting department. And so we talk a lot about high school, but the transfer portal is a big thing.
Sure.
So guess what? You're going to need that player tracking data on college players. And so the moment that collegiate tracking data becomes widely available is going to be a watershed moment. And the great thing about our technology is that we're agnostic to the level of play, whether it's high school, college, or
Right.
NFL. Our technology, we use computer vision technology. And so we're able to extract data from all 22 film at the collegiate level or NFL level, or broadcast version if it's a high school level in terms of the sideline view. So, yeah, it's going to help these programs do a much better job of getting in early on prospects, because we know, and we have tons of data that shows, if an athlete, let's say a high school freshman, we know that if he hits a certain MPH, miles per hour threshold, that the likelihood that he's going to be a Power 5 player is extremely high, right? We know that if they're an athlete's overall in-game athleticism score exceeds a certain number, then the likelihood that they're going to be a contributor or a starter for your program is pretty high. And we have that broken down by conference.
Right. And that probably is also broken down by, I mean, I'm guessing you're looking at these high school players differently by position and also by
Yeah.
age, freshman, sophomore, junior, senior, or is that?
Yeah, we break it down by position, and then we also can benchmark relative to the conference that these schools are in as well.
So let me follow up with my last question, I promise. A
Oh, you're
process
fine.
question.
Sure.
How you have a high school out there, let's say high school or a high school kid, a recruit. Are they reaching out to services like you to get those metrics, or are you actively going to high schools and kind of saying we can? Okay.
Yeah. So sorry, I didn't mean my body
No,
language
no,
to cut you
no.
off.
Yeah.
So the way it works is our clients, they provide us with, we work with clients in one or two ways. Some clients hire us for an evaluation verification piece, meaning that, just that's a fancy word of saying they provide us their recruiting board, and then we grade the players out and we provide them with verified speeds or verified in-game athleticism scores. Okay.
Oh, awesome. Okay.
So they've already done the heavy lifting on the front end of the cycle, the recruiting cycle, to identify the players. They've kind of gone through the traditional culling process of grinding through tape and saying, okay, these are the players that we're serious about. And then that list that gets culled down from thousands of prospects to hundreds, then those hundreds get provided to us. And then we run the analytics to help them rack and stack their recruiting board and
Gotcha.
prioritize who they want to go after. So that's one. And then we have other programs that leverage us on the front end and the back end. So they will leverage us as a discovery tool. And so, as I mentioned before, we know they'll say, hey, we want to look at these 5 states. And in these 5 states, we want you to provide us with any player that exceeds this MPH. And we actually tell them what that threshold should be, depending on the classification, whether it's a freshman, sophomore, or junior. And then they will use that list as an identification tool. They'll use that as an identification tool. And then on the back end, we'll also provide and verify their game speed as well as their in-game athleticism.
That's fascinating. It's going to change the game. Like it's going to revolutionize how a lot of these prospects are found. And not asking for any names, any conferences, anything specific, but are you able to give us an idea of a rough idea of how many programs you guys are working with, how many conferences? Is this pretty adopted at this point, or is this still schools kind of not really being there?
No, it's still very much in the early adoption stage. So right now, we're working with less than 10 programs right now, quickly growing. So in the next couple of weeks, be on the lookout on our handle.
For sure.
We've got an exciting announcement to make around another SEC program that's gonna be leveraging our services. So we're super excited about that. And then we're going to be going. So we've got an SEC program that's going to sign on with us, as well as a Big 12 program that's going to sign on with us. So we're super excited about that. And we're going to continue to pound the pavement and help these coaches and programs understand how we can complement their process.
That's awesome, man. We got to get you up to Madison. We got to get you in the, we got to get you there. But no, that's phenomenal, man. And we're definitely going to keep an eye out for all that. Once again, Cory, man, I love this talk. I appreciate it so much. We got to get people like you out talking the game because it makes everybody smarter. So your Twitter account's up there. Recommend everybody go give a follow. It's somebody I follow. The insight is incredible. I think he's a unique voice in this area. So once again, man, I can't tell you how much I appreciate you coming on.
Thanks a lot, Ryan. You raised the bar way too high, by the way, but I appreciate the kind words, my friend.
And maybe again after the draft or at some point in the summer. I know you're blowing up, but maybe down the road we can get you back on the show and just keep talking football.
Yeah, let's do it again.
Awesome, guys. All right, everybody. Thank you again for listening. Make sure you follow Cory. Check out what he's doing. It's phenomenal work. Thank you for making Locked On Badgers your first listen every day. Make Locked On Draft your second listen today. Draft is coming up. Ryan Tracy, Eric Crocker bring you all the latest news, front offices, prospects. It's, again, free and available wherever you get podcasts. If you're watching this on YouTube, give us a like, give us a listen. If you're on the podcast, always leave feedback. We get to it. It makes our show better as we try to build this community. Thanks again, everybody, and thank you, Cory.
Absolutely. Have a great day.